You're listening and or watching episode 133 of The Kennel, a Cleveland football podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Stevie James. I'm Gian Trotta. What's up, dude?
What's up, dude? What's going on?
Not much, man. Chilling here, getting ready to talk about the Texans coming over to Cleveland to face the 5-3 Cleveland Browns that are coming off the bye. We have some good news to talk about, some people coming back, and some other stuff that's going to be happening. Are you excited for the Sunday?
You were kind of talking like Bob Ross almost there for a second. Remember the painting dude?
Yes.
We have some good news. We're going to paint a nice little cottage here on our landscape. It's really, there are only happy mistakes
and
here.
Our wonderful birds flying across the canvas.
Exactly. So we're going to do some quick bites today, some quick predicts. Make sure you follow us on social media. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, at Football Kennel, mostly Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification bell.
You must.
Like the video, leave a comment, all that
Subscribe to
stuff.
the podcast if you prefer the podcast form. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all your favorite podcast apps. Make sure you rate us 5 stars and leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you must.
We are halfway through the season. There is some stuff to dissect before we get into the pre-game episode portion of the Texans and the Browns. So let's start off with Quick Bites.
Quick Bites.
We'll start off Quick Bites with a bit of a, what's it called, an eye grabber, an attention seeker. What's it, like a headline? Like a clickbaity headline, or a quick bite. That's a mouthful. Has OBJ played his last game as a Cleveland Brown?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk of this. And in all fairness, since the day OBJ came to Cleveland, there's been talks about him getting traded away from Cleveland. So
fair enough. But he did obviously come off or just recently injure his knee. And then just November 10th, he had his knee surgery to repair that tear on the, I believe, MCL or ACL, one of those CLs, one of those. And right now, it looks like his timetable for return looks like early to mid-season 2021. So you wonder, do you think he'll be used as trade fodder for something?
That's interesting because I heard that he would be good to go for the season opener next year.
I don't know.
Well, regardless.
I do have a quote here from Andrew Berry, and I just from that article that I was reading on just his status post-surgery, it mentioned that tidbit on his timeline. So I don't know how accurate that is. You know, we do try to do our best, but
yeah. So of course, there's rumors circulating that we're going to trade him. We can't trade him right now or do anything like that. He's still under contract for 3 years. So if we're going to move him, it'd be going into next season.
We can't cut him because it's in his contract that we can't.
And it'd be stupid too. Anyway,
of course, I don't think the Browns want to cut him. I'm just saying we can't.
So has OBJ played his last game with the Browns? I don't think so. I think there's been obvious chemistry issues between him and Baker. We have talked about it ad nauseum on this show, as have the majority of the local and national media, so we don't have to get super into that. In a perfect world, you want to see Baker playing well and OBJ having dominant games and looking like the dominant receiver he was in New York prior to coming to Cleveland. We haven't seen that materialize, and it's frustrating. Now he's out for the year, and the question becomes, if over the course of the next 8 games, if the offense has a lot of success, Baker Mayfield looks very good, then that does tend to kind of muddy the waters. But it should be a situation where if you have an offense that's going well and you add an elite playmaker to it,
in theory, that should be better, right? And we do have, like I mentioned, this quote from Andrew Berry, and he talks about how his focus with Odell is really the fact that he has impacted this team. He has been a good teammate on and off the field. And, besides his injury, he's a piece that they want in the facility for a long time to come. So I don't think he would say this if they were looking to trade him, obviously. But I will say that after he was injured, Ian Rappaport had a report on ESPN. Right, Ian Rappaport is the ESPN guy, right?
I think so.
Or is he NFL Network?
I think he's either or.
Yeah, because he was recently suspended by the NFL Network for doing a Manscaped commercial. But anyways, not enough about Ian Rappaport. My point is, he had a report where he talked about sources that mentioned this might be that the Bengals game might have been the last game with OBJ suited up as a Browns player. Now, Ian Rappaport is pretty reputable around the league. Has been an analyst with the NFL Network for a while. So why would he say this if he didn't? Why would he stake his reputation on a story like this if he didn't have legitimate rumors and rumblings going around of him getting traded. I also saw another analyst tweet out that yes, I have heard rumors about it, but nothing really material. So it is out there, and usually when something's out there, I err on the side of caution, but I generally think that once they start getting to the level of like Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, it's generally true.
I think there's a bunch of teams in NFL sources speculating that OBJ could be traded. I mean, when we talk about sources, it's not sources within the Browns, so it's someone. Yeah, he has a source who.
Well, it could be sources within the
It's not. So he has.
You don't
sources.
know that.
I do know that.
No, you don't.
I talk to them. Yeah, how about that? I have sources.
Well,
I'm kidding. No, it could be, but I don't think that's the case. I think what it is it's sources around the NFL, not necessarily with the Browns, because if it was a source with the Browns, he would say a team source says this and this, but he says NFL sources tell me that OBJ is someone who could be traded going into next year. And if you look through the past year or two, there's been numerous reports of saying that OBJ could be traded and all this different stuff. So I think
and he did.
I think I'm saying like in his time with the Browns.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I think, yes, there's people in the NFL that think that he could be traded, and maybe some of those people have some connections or friendships with people in the Browns and stuff like that. I mean, you could even have a low-level staff member, like a film guy who works at the Browns, being like, yeah, maybe he could be traded. And then he says that to his friend with the Packers, and the Packers like, yeah, I'm hearing maybe he could be traded. Then he talks to Ian Rappaport, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm hearing people talking about he could be traded. It's like, yeah, I'm sure people are talking about he could be traded. But...
So you don't think so?
No, I don't think he's going to be traded.
Fair enough.
It wouldn't completely catch me off guard, but I don't think he's going to be traded. What I want to see happen is I want to see Baker have a good year this year, and when we bring OBJ back into the mix next year, I want Baker to have the confidence as a productive player on this team, maybe some playoff experience, and as a leader to where when we put OBJ in the mix, we're no longer forcing him the ball and trying to do these trying to mold the offense around OBJ, but rather having our offense in place and letting OBJ become the complementary piece that he's supposed to be. That's my hope.
Well, I agree with you. And quick bite number 2. Let's go. You want to do this one? Or?
Yeah. So you posed this question. I'll read it for you. So was Baker Mayfield the right choice? Was Baker Mayfield the right choice at number 1 in the 2018 NFL Draft? And some perspective on that is if you look at Patrick Mahomes. He was recently the fastest quarterback in terms of games played to make it to 100 touchdowns in his career.
Obviously already has a Super Bowl, won an MVP.
Super Bowl MVP. You look at another guy who was taken the same year as Patrick Mahomes, and that's Deshaun Watson, who we're going to be seeing this week, who I think has proven himself as a top-tier quarterback, and he's still young, only going to develop and get better.
And then you look at somebody drafted during Baker Mayfield's draft year, with like Josh Allen, for example, the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era with 400-plus passing yards, 3+ passing touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 130-plus passer rating in multiple games in a season.
Yeah, he's been pretty insane. And then you also have to look at Lamar Jackson, who was taken in the same round that year and won the NFL MVP last year. So comparing it to all these other guys, but at the same time, you could say like, well, instead of Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson, we could have taken Mitch Trubisky. Or we could have taken Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold, who doesn't get nearly the criticism that he deserves, but he misses games constantly and has had very few fleeting moments where he's looked like a legit.
You mean Sam Darnold?
Yeah, where he's looked few moments.
I said Josh Rosen.
No, I said Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold. Josh Rosen obviously is not even playing anywhere, but Sam Darnold, who's been a starter with the Jets,
he's not even a backup.
He is on the practice squad of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Rough.
Yeah. So then you have Sam Darnold, who started a bunch of games, but he's also missed a bunch of games, and he's had very few fleeting moments where he actually looked good. And I know the Jets are terrible and blah, 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 but I think Sam Darnold deserves a lot more criticism than he gets. So the point is, you can look at the guys who've been really good, and then you can look at the guys who haven't and been like, well, which one did we get? And right now, as it stands, Baker's kind of in the middle of all that stuff.
Sure.
And I'm completely biased where I love Baker Mayfield, and I totally believe in him. When you look at Josh Allen, I think he's been the most surprising. His first couple years in the NFL, he never threw for more than 300 yards in a game.
He was a very complimentary piece to that offense.
And now, all of a sudden, he's throwing for over 300 yards almost every game, multiple 400 passing yard games. And the thing I would love to point out with that, and the thing that was working against Baker Mayfield, we talk about all the time, Baker Mayfield, 4 different systems, 3 different head coaches in his 3 years in the NFL. Josh Allen, same head coach, same offensive coordinator his entire time, and he was able to be slowly developed into the offense.
Sure,
that's going to
definitely.
that's going to make a big difference. Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs, all the talent they have, Andy Reid, etc. So these quarterbacks that have done very well are in very different situations.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say that for sure. That mostly Josh Allen. My comparison with Josh Allen is plug in Josh Allen to the Browns, and what Baker Mayfield had to go through since he's been drafted, and Josh Allen probably falls apart. But to be fair to Josh Allen, he's also played like a man's man since his rookie year, despite not really putting up crazy offensive performances like you mentioned, at least on the passing side. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't quick bites are just trying to clickbait, grab people,
trying to take a quick bite.
Then
you could say. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we tweeted out before, Baker Mayfield's our quarterback, and that's a hill we're fully prepared to die on, and I'm still on that hill, and I will be forever, basically. So I think we made the right choice in Baker. I still believe in Baker 1,000%. We've talked about it a lot. And one thing I want to point out, too, is if you look at like Ben Roethlisberger, his third year in the NFL, with the same head coach, the same offensive system, coming off, he already won a Super Bowl at that point, sure. But his third year in the NFL, he threw 18 touchdowns and 23 interceptions. So playing quarterback is not just this simple thing where it's like, bam, I'm good and I'm good forever now. It's a progression. It takes time. And Baker's 25 years old and didn't get to have an offseason and all this stuff. So I believe in Baker. I think he's going to have a really strong second half. I think we're going to make a playoff push, have a chance to do something in the playoffs, and then going into next year with a full offseason with Kevin Stefanski, because we believe Kevin Stefanski is the guy. I still think the sky's the limit for Baker.
Fair enough. Yep, I agree. Next, our next quick bite really is, obviously Myles Garrett was just voted the midseason defensive MVP by NFL.com. He's tied for the most sacks in the league with 9, has forced 7 turnovers, forced 4 fumbles, which also he's tied first with that, and second most in defensive disruptions.
Whatever that means.
Next gen stats.
Yeah.
So my quick bite to you is Myles Garrett the next Reggie White?
Yeah, Reggie White's a great comparison. In my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, Reggie White's the best defensive lineman maybe ever. That you can easily make that case. He's got the second most sacks of all time. Only Bruce Smith has more, but it took him like 6 or 7 more seasons than Reggie White played to even get to that number. And what's also a cool comparison with Myles Garrett and Reggie White is Reggie White was the Reverend. He was I might be quoting this wrong, but he was Reverend, some kind of preacher, very very hardcore God-fearing man, and was very kind, except for when he was on the football field. And while Myles Garrett may not be, maybe he is, but he hasn't been outwardly overly religious or anything like that, but he is an extremely kind and gentle person off the football field, and then on the football field, he's extremely violent, able to get after the quarterback.
And then on the football field, he takes helmets off of people and swings them at people's heads.
Yes. Yeah, that did happen. So I think that's while it's a bold, I also think it's a fair comparison. It's a little too early in Myles Garrett's career to officially really hit it with that. But if he continues on the trajectory he's on, last year 10 sacks in 10 games, this year 9 sacks through 8 games, wins the midseason defensive player of the award, which isn't like a real award, but NFL.com voted him the midseason defensive player of the year. So if he's able to replicate in the second half of the season what he's been able to do in the first half, then he's got a legit shot. He's got a legit shot at leading the NFL in sacks and winning the Defensive Player of the Year award. Those are both very significant accomplishments that really put him on the map. And Myles Garrett's only 24, 25 years old, so he's extremely young, and he hasn't even entered his prime yet. So I think, or he's just beginning to enter his prime. So I think I think Myles Garrett, if he is able to stay healthy and continue to improve, Myles Garrett has a chance to be one of the best to ever do it. He has the intangibles, the skills, the body, the mindset, everything you could ever need to be one of the best to ever do it. He has it now. Only time will tell.
Excellently put, my faithful co-host. Nice transition. And since we do get Myles Garrett back and as one of the players that we get back, or I guess he never left, but he had the knee contusion. Anyways, let's get into this game preview.
Damn Texans.
Game preview.
180! What's up?
All right, getting into the game, Browns and Texans. This is in Cleveland, yes?
It is in Cleveland. The Texans are coming to Cleveland.
Texans are coming to Cleveland, and the Texans have been extremely disappointing this year. We'll get into some other stuff. I'm just going to give the brief overview real quick. The Texans are 2-6 this year, and they were supposed to be a team that was going to be competing for the playoffs. You have Deshaun Watson on offense, J.J. Watt on defense, other players in a good spot, but next thing you know, They lose their first 4 games, and now they're 2-2 over their last 4. They had to fire Bill O'Brien, and now their head coach is former Cleveland Browns head coach
Romeo Crennel.
Romeo Crennel was the last coach to have a winning record in Cleveland. His 3rd season with the team, he went 10-6 in 2007. Derek Anderson, Braylon Edwards, Kellen Winslow, all that shenanigans.
It is fair to point out that the big headline with the Texans is also not just that they didn't just lose Bill O'Brien, is what Bill O'Brien did leading up to that. Obviously, he traded DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson, which up to this point has been their primary running back, but their rushing attack has not been good. And like Stevie said, we'll get into it here in a little bit.
Now they got Duke Johnson at running back because David Johnson might be out with a concussion. So we got Romeo and Duke coming to town. Pretty interesting. But
oh wow.
Getting into some notes, I just mentioned it. Obviously, we're going against our former head coach in Romeo Crennel. And that's going to be an interesting matchup. Going to be facing off against, we'll see if David Johnson ends up playing. After the concussion that he suffered last week, he's probably not going to play. He's probably going to be trapped in the concussion protocol. So we're likely going to have Duke Johnson started at running back.
Duke Johnson, and looks like their next option after that is CJ Prozis.
Yeah, who's really hasn't done anything this year.
CJ Prozis.
So that's going to be interesting. Then coming back to town, I think Duke's going to be motivated. If you've been a long-time listener to the show, you know that we love Duke Johnson. But coming back to the Browns, and speaking of running backs, Nick Chubb is back. He's been designated for return off IR. He says he's feeling great. It's not as simple as just him feeling great, though. He has to get approval by the team doctors and get everything in order to get on the field.
He was wearing a knee brace.
Yep, but he said he's feeling great. And he can't wait to get back on the field, and I would love to get him back.
It's
for
good
the
to
back
get him
half
back.
Of the season.
It's good to get him back, and I think he will play against the Texans. But nice to point out here that before his injury, the Browns were averaging 204.5 yards, rushing yards per game, and after he was injured, it dropped down to 95.5 rushing yards per game, and they only averaged 86 over the last 3 games they played. So
yeah, it hasn't been
significant difference without Chubb on the field.
And a big part of that is Wyatt Teller, who, when he went out with an injury, he was one of the top-rated guards in the NFL, and we were losing our minds. Not only was he one of the top-rated guards in the NFL, we talked about this, through the first 4 games of the season, he was the highest-rated guard in the history of Pro Football Focus through 4 games, which I know it's small sample, but that's a insane achievement. I mean, just through 4 games, but still. So getting him back should be very significant. Chris Hubbard's filled in admirably, but I think getting Wyatt Teller in there takes us to the next level.
Will be huge.
Getting Austin Hooper back as well.
He comes back from the appendicitis.
Yeah, he had the appendectomy. What do you call it?
Appendectomy. Appendectomy. So he missed 2 games. 2 games because he had to have it emergency before the last 2 games, and then missed the 2nd game recovering from the injury. So
he's
comes
back. Says he feels great.
Having him back, Myles Garrett is, he obviously he's still on the injury report, but he had, I think, limited participation, which is still a good sign. And he said he's been feeling good. Actually, it doesn't even look like he's not even on the injury report.
Oh, that's wonderful news.
So this is great news. Yeah.
Good, because we're going to need a lot of Myles Garrett. Extremely important.
He was listed questionable as of Monday, but it looks like as of today, today being Wednesday, he's off. So really the only concern there is Wyatt Teller, limited play. So I mean, if we get Nick Chubb, we get Wyatt Teller, we get Austin Hooper, Myles Garrett at full health, which it looks like all of these will be happening. I mean, that's huge, not just for the offense, but for our team going into the Texans. And there are a few reasons why, too. On the offensive side, and obviously Nick Chubb and Wyatt Teller being the most important pieces there coming. Or I guess this would be the Texans' defense, but our offense. Texans' defense is horrible. They're even worse than ours. And ours is...
Ouch.
Ours is pretty bad. But the Texans' defense is pretty horrible. They allow 30.3 points per game, which puts them at 29th, so almost the worst. Passing yards allowed per game, 257, so that's a 22nd. That they most recently let rookie Jake Luton, who starred in place of Gardner Minshew for the Jags, throw over 300 yards on them. So that's pretty telling there on what they're capable of doing against the pass. And then against the run, they are the worst team so far this season. Through 10 weeks, they're 32nd in rushing yards allowed per game, putting them at 159, which is...
What a great game for Nick Chubb to come back.
Yep,
they're allowing
5.1
yards per carry.
Puts them at 31st. So literally the worst rushing defense in the NFL, and we thought we were bad. We might be, because you said, really offenses don't have to, and when they did, i.e. the Raiders, it worked really well. So who knows? But as we know, they're very limited in the run, but they're always going to be a threat offensively as long as they have Deshaun Watson.
Of course. And looking at their defense, they not only did they give up over 300 passing yards to a rookie last week, throughout the season, they've allowed the highest passer rating to quarterbacks in the NFL, an average passer rating of 111.2. So this is a situation where our offense is designed, like the strengths of our offense are the weaknesses of their defense.
Yeah, we should thrive against this defense. This, in theory, I mean, if you look at what their biggest threat really is their pass rush. Obviously, they have J.J. Watt back there leading the team with 4 total sacks, and they have 18 sacks as a unit. But really, 18 sacks right now through 10 weeks is kind of middle of the road. So even that isn't, if for being their strongest point, it's not a considerably strong point for that defense. Obviously, not generating a lot of turnovers there. And our offensive line, on the other hand, I believe we're 7th best at so far sacks, because Baker Mayfield has only been sacked 11 times. So it puts us at the 7th best in that category. So, I mean, middle of the road against one of the best top 10 offensive lines so far through this season. I think that, and then obviously with Nick Chubb coming back and our offense really being able to be a full force, what we are accustomed to, this defense is in for a tough day.
We should be able to run the ball like a motherfucker in this game, and it's going to be interesting to see what Nick Chubb's snap count is. I mean, in a situation where the Texans' defense is in a position where it is, I mean, you can use a lot of Kareem Hunt. We haven't seen the productivity out of Kareem Hunt that we wanted to see, but he's still has a bunch of touchdowns. He's still been a good runner of the football.
Sure.
I'm not going to sit here and dog on Kareem Hunt, but I wouldn't be surprised if in this game we maybe see some Chubb early, but ultimately I wouldn't be surprised if Kareem gets kind of more carries in this game. But
I almost guarantee it.
Yeah. With this line being healthy and their run defense being terrible, I don't care if you're back there running the ball. We should be able to get some yards and control this game. And after getting controlled by the Raiders after the bye week, we need to flip that script around, and this needs to be a game that we control.
Yeah, and I think we will. I think the offensive game plan really will be to take advantage of their weakest link, which is the rushing defense. And I think with getting Nick Chubb back, we'll probably see a very balanced rushing attack, varying, a little bit of Kareem Hunt, a little bit of Nick Chubb there, here and there, and then that complementary passing attack with Baker Mayfield, obviously utilizing our tight ends. We get Austin Hooper back, which will be huge. So I'm sure you'll see a lot of play actions, a lot of rollouts in complementary football with the run.
Big time. And switching over to their offense obviously drives through
Deshaun Watson. I mentioned it, yeah. They always have a chance to win despite their tough record as long as he's under center for him. He's like, in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinion, obviously, I didn't come up with this term, he's like the Michael Jordan.
Yeah, they've been saying that for a long time. And he's been great. So far this year, he's got 2,300 yards, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions through 8 games. So he's on pace for almost over 4,700 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, and just 10 interceptions. So, I mean, he's playing at... You don't hear about him often because his team's 2-6, and maybe he's to blame for some of that. But they've had some other challenges along the way. But he's playing, despite their record. This is an elite quarterback. This guy's nothing to sneeze at. So he's going to be a significant challenge. The advantage that we have, now I don't even want to say advantage, but they're the second worst rushing team in the NFL, only averaging 87 rushing yards per game. Now they're a borderline top 5 passing offense. So that's something we have to contend with,
and you bet we will. I mean,
we'll try.
They have a great tight end in Darren Fells, former Cleveland Brown, who has been utilized crazy as a red zone threat throughout the past few years, really, with the Texans. And obviously they have Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, which I picked up in fantasy. He's been doing great, and then Randall Cobb there as a support for that wide receiving core. So they have some weapons that will expose our passing defense, which is not great.
Big time, and they have a lot of speed. Will Fuller actually has 6 touchdowns on the year, and those have come over the course of 6 consecutive games. He's caught a touchdown in 6 consecutive games. Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks are both on pace for over 1,000 yards, and they're both speed guys. So there's a lot of speed in their secondary. They're probably going to be without David Johnson in this game, but we think really highly of Duke Johnson. I think Duke Johnson's going to be very highly motivated in this game, and he's, as we know, a threat with the ball in his hands and a threat catching the ball out of the backfield. So that's something we're going to have to contend with. Hasn't
really been utilized well in the Texans offense since they picked him up, but nobody really seems to know how to use him.
No one uses Duke Johnson. I don't understand. But so what I'm nervous of, we've given up a lot of passing yards this year. We have one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL, sadly but surely.
Sure.
And
slightly worse than theirs.
We've given up, over 400 yards to Dak Prescott. We've given up huge passing games to a bunch of people, the exception being Derek Carr last week, but the wind was insane. I mean, no one was throwing the ball.
Yeah, I mean,
for nothing.
even Baker Mayfield went 12 of 25, 122 yards with no touchdowns, no interceptions.
Because of 7 drops. Sorry.
Well, because of 7 drops, and because the wind was crazy, and because the Raiders really dominated the time of possession. So
no, it was a disaster. I didn't want to do it. I don't want to stop it.
Go ahead to keep talking about
you're doing this to me.
Keep talking about what
our
defense struggling.
I'm worried Deshaun Watson's going to carve us up. My saving grace here is
I was going to say
he's been sacked 24 times.
Yep.
This year, which is probably the most, or it's probably close to being the most.
It's up there. It's actually below his average. Actually, Deshaun Watson has been sacked a ridiculous amount of times throughout his career because the Houston Texans have not done a great job of taking care of him, and also because he does run around the field a lot. I mean, that's part of it.
He does extend plays.
Yeah, that's part of his game. But you mentioned the 24 sacks this season, which is definitely high, despite being below his average. But that makes it so he did pick up a pair of sacks. Last week, got sacked twice by the Jaguars defense. That's 17 straight games being sacked at least once.
That's a lot of times.
Yeah.
So we should definitely be able to
we
do well
have
in this
someone
game.
that loves to sack people.
We have a guy.
We did mention him earlier in the Quick Bite segment.
And what's nice about Myles Garrett, too, is he seeks out the football. When he's sacking someone, he's also in the business of really trying to get the ball away from them. And when you have someone like Deshaun Watson who's looking to extend the plays, that's where Myles Garrett really excels, is someone who's going to extend the plays, because no one can block Myles Garrett for long enough for any quarterback to try to extend a play. So you're going to have Myles Garrett breathing down your throat, and Deshaun Watson's prone to running around with the ball in his throwing hand. Mm-hmm. So that's prime Myles Garrett real estate to be cutting at that ball. So the key to this game, I think, and I don't think we're going to control this passing offense, but the key to giving us a chance and keeping it in check as much as we can is going to be Myles Garrett having a big game, consistently applying pressures, getting some sacks. A strip sack would be very important in this game. And that's the only way we're going to be able to slow down this passing attack.
Yeah, and I think if you flip the coin over and you look at what we needed to do on the offensive side is, personally, I think this game is destined to be a shootout. And we talked about the craziness in most of our games where we basically score 7 points or less or 30 points or more and nothing in between this entire season. I think that continued with the Raiders, right? Because the game was 16-6. So, I mean, 7 points or less or 30 points or more with this offense. And I think that this is a recipe for that type of game where we're going to put up over 30 points. In theory, on paper, it should work out that way. But on their offensive side and our defensive side, it looks like, they're well posed to do the same. So it comes down to, on the offensive side, really taking care of the football, really dominating the time of possession, which we tend to do when we play these bad defenses. We tend to do when we have these 30-plus point games. But we really need to obviously keep Deshaun Watson off the field as much as possible, and we need to take care of the football. If we don't give them extra opportunities to get out there and generate offense, we should be able to outpace them because, like I mentioned, their defense is worse than ours. So it's really about not being as bad as them on the defensive side, and then offensively taking care of the football more than they do. Yeah. So we need to trust that Myles Garrett will generate some turnovers, and we need to trust that Baker Mayfield will take care of the football and get Nick Chubb out there, get a nice balanced rushing attack, and we could win this game.
Yeah, we have to follow the formula that this team was built to follow.
Yep.
We need to run the ball, control the time of possession, and get timely turnovers on defense. It's the simple formula that we set up before the season started. It's the simple formula we need to continue to use as the season goes on. Getting Wyatt Teller back, Nick Chubb back, Austin Hooper back, that obviously helps a lot. A healthy Myles Garrett helps a lot. And as we said earlier in the episode, the Texans' defense, all their weaknesses are all of our strengths. So this should be a situation where we're able to achieve a big game. And I think we will. I think this is a game that the Browns can definitely win. I think those were kind of your final thoughts. Those are my kind of final thoughts. Are we ready for the quick predicts?
I think we're ready for the quick predicts.
Let's do it.
Quick predicts.
All right, quick predicts. Hashtag Kennel Quick Predicts. Make sure you use the hashtag Kennel Quick Predicts on Twitter if you want to follow along and participate, or on YouTube. Just leave a comment down below. We'll post the quick predicts with the tweet of the episode releasing, and then obviously in the description down below for YouTube.
Try to make it easy, as always.
I'm trying to make it easy for you guys, so make it easy for us by using the hashtag. That way I can find your quick predicts on Twitter. We can go over it, and then you could maybe potentially win some imaginary points.
Big time.
On Week 10 quick predicts. So we'll start off with the most important one, as we always say, Myles Garrett sacks.
And it hurts me that we're on the same page, because I hate when we agree on things.
Same.
And I thought about
it's
it.
a little bit more fun when we don't.
Yeah, and I was going to try to do something else, but I'm going to go 2 sacks. I think we're still going to see a little bit of a limit to Myles Garrett's snap count. Not like we saw it in the Raiders game where he was like pretty banged up and ended up playing less than half the snaps, but typically Myles Garrett's closer to that 90% snap count. I think in this game it's less than that. I think we'll see him on maybe like at most 3/4 of the defensive snaps. I don't think we'll have as many opportunities as usual, but I still think we're going to be able to get a lead in this game, and Deshaun Watson's going to run around like crazy with the football like a madman. It's going to give Myles Garrett opportunities to get at least 2 sacks in this game.
I also hate when we agree, because it means I can't beat you at quick predicts. But yeah, I'm going to go with 2. I think it's just it's the perfect recipe for him to have his average baseline of 2 sacks in a game.
Next one, Nick Chubb stat line.
We do get Nick Chubb, the return of Nick Chubb.
The return of Nick Chubb, our favorite player, and it feels so good. And,
it does.
This is talking about Myles Garrett's snap count being limited. I think we're definitely going to see that with Nick Chubb, and I think it'd be, as much as I want to see Nick Chubb every play with the ball in his hands, I think it'd be stupid to overuse him in this game.
I agree.
And we don't know how he's feeling. If he's completely healthy and fresh and brand new, then maybe it's not
Put
that.
him out there for 40
yeah,
carries.
Maybe it's not that crazy.
500 yards. We need a Derrick Henry game.
But I think it's smart in this game, especially when you have a Kareem Hunt, to not overuse him. So I'm going to be a little modest with my Nick Chubb stat line. I'm going to go 12 carries, 70 yards, still have some nice runs. And I do want to remind everyone that Nick Chubb still leads the NFL in rushes of over 20 yards this season. Still, despite not playing since, week 3 or 4 or whatever it was. So I'm going 12 carries, 70 yards, 1 touchdown.
Well, I wanted to go a little more modest, and I think I am generally when I'm talking about his carries here, my stat line. Then we're typically used when it comes to Nick Chubb. I'm gonna go with 14 carries, but I think he has a huge game because I still think going against this defense, he'll be able to have a good amount of chunk plays and maybe even drop a crazy big run. So I think he'll have 14 carries, 122 yards, 1 touchdown.
I would love that.
It'll happen.
Damn near 10 yards a carry, but I think that's a good kind of predicator if he's done it a million times. So Nick Chubb at any moment can break an 80-yard run.
And if the game plan we laid out here is followed, in theory he should be able to do so. Next quick predict: Baker Mayfield over under 1 touchdown. We did talk about the game plan really for this being mostly based around the run, and then having a complementary passing attack with the bootleg and the play action and what we're used to, especially getting Austin Hooper back and being able to utilize all of our tight ends. What are you thinking over under 1 touchdown for Baker Mayfield?
Over under 1, I'm going over 3 touchdowns. I think.
Wow.
I think it's going to be another game where I'm not suspecting he's going to have a huge passing game in terms of yardage and things of that nature, but I think it's another one of those games that we saw earlier in the season where he has. We're not predicting stat line here, but I'm saying it's going to be something where he's like 18 of 25, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns, because we're going to use the running game to get into the red zone, then in the red zone use the play action to throw touchdown passes. And I need to see Jarvis Landry catch a touchdown pass. He doesn't have any on the year. He had that what I think in hindsight was a bad call on the touchdown drop against the Raiders. And I would love to see him get a touchdown.
He's due for it.
Yeah, maybe 3 touchdowns for Jarvis Landry. That'd be sick too.
I'm with it. I would love to see a big complimentary game from this offense, kind of as a prove it point, saying they last big game we had offensively, they dedicated it to Odell Beckham Jr. And I think after OBJ had his surgery, they'll want to do something similar where they just ball out offensively and they kind of dedicate the performance to OBJ and saying, we'll hold it down for you till you get back, boy. So I think Baker Mayfield will have a big game. I want to see a big game from Nick Chubb. I think he'll get in the end zone. I think Kareem Hunt will get in the end zone. And, I think Jarvis Landry will get one of the 2 touchdowns that I believe Baker Mayfield will throw. I'm going over for Baker Mayfield, over under 1 touchdowns. I'm going over, and I'm saying he'll throw 2 touchdowns. You don't have to make that part of your quick predict. If you don't want to, you could just say over under.
They're all going to do it. They do it every time.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. For the ones that don't feel bad if you don't. And
you will get bonus points if you do, and you're right.
Yes, because we make up the rules on the spot.
I did just make that up.
Made that up, therefore it's true. Next, quick predict. Austin Hooper, over under 3 receptions. I looked over his average so far on the season. It's around 3.6. So I did over under 3 receptions for the game. His first game back since the appendectomy.
The appendectomy.
So what say you? Austin Hooper over under 3 receptions.
Well, prior to the appendectomy, he had 5 catches in 3 consecutive games. He had 5 against the Cowboys, the Colts, and the Steelers. So I think he can get right back to that form. And with OBJ being out of the game, and with David Njoku being unable to catch the ball with his hands, sorry, David, I still like you, and I think you could turn it around. I'm not sweating it, but I think Austin Hooper is, he's not like recovering from like a knee or like he had an appendectomy, so. It's not like, well, he's got it, how's his knee going to hold up? He's recovering from that shoulder injury. It's none of those things. Like it was a surgery. He's fully recovered from it. So he's coming into this game fully healthy, and you could argue, fresh too. So he hasn't played since October 18th. So it's been nearly a month since he's played. So he's going to come in fresh. I think he's got good hands. I think Baker Mayfield likes to target his tight ends, and I think, over under 3. I'm going over 3. I think we see Austin Hooper get at least 5 catches in this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if he catches one of those red zone touchdowns if Jarvis Landry doesn't get all 3 of them.
I, again, hate to do this, but I couldn't agree more. I'm going to go with over. I think he definitely goes over the 3.6 average because, like you mentioned, it's a low-risk surgery, and he had plenty of time really to recover. So I think he'll come back, and he'll really be that number 1, number 2 target, especially in the red zone. So
big time, and we need him. We need him to step up because the receiving core is a little thin. I mean, I love Higgins as much as the next guy, but after, and maybe Peoples-Jones can be a big target and do well, but he was a 6th-round draft pick, and he had, so on paper, we're still pretty thin at receivers, so having the tight ends really step up is crucial. Final quick predict.
And then Tywan Taylor, I think he's in the concussion protocol, isn't he?
I'm not sure. Is he?
No.
Nope.
So we're good.
All right, cool. Got some speed. Whatever. Final quick predict, and the second most important to Myles Garrett's sack, but ultimately, final score, Week 10, Browns and Texans. I'll rip it right away. While I think this has the propensity to be a bit of a shootout, I don't think it's going to get too crazy. I think we're able to control the ball on offense with the running game, and I'm going to go Browns 28-24.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a win. Obviously, everything I've talked about so far hints at the fact that I think this is going to be a shootout, and we'll stay on that average of either 7 points or less or 30 points or more. So it'll be a crazy shootout. I think offensively we'll finally be able to have the type of game plan that we do when we maximize this offense, and we have great offensive games. But I just don't think we're going to be able to stop Deshaun Watson. So it's really going to come down to not making mistakes, not turning the ball over, and keeping him off the field as much as possible. With that being said, I think Browns win 36-32. Fun to point out, in episode 120, our NFL schedule prediction, you went with a Browns W. At this point, you would, if they win against the Texans, you said they would be 7-2, which, as we both know, is incorrect.
1 game short.
I predicted a Browns loss, which would put them accurately, if they lose, at 5-4.
Yeah, I think my for my schedule prediction in episode 120, I think I was being ridiculous and I went with the Browns going like 13-3.
I believe you did, yeah.
So I need them to win the rest of their games in order for my schedule prediction to be accurate.
Makes sense. Yeah, you did have them go 13-3. I have them going 11-5.
Little outrageous. Whoops. But I still think it's possible. I don't care. Go on a crazy 8-game winning streak to close out the season. Go 13-3. Win the AFC. Fuck it.
Yeah, your only loss in your prediction after the bye was against the Eagles.
Ooh, gross.
Well, nobody thought the Eagles were going to be this bad.
Not this bad, no. I thought they'd be, like a 7-9 to 9-7 range type team, but they've been really bad.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Same for the Texans.
I hate to root against people, but I do root against Carson Wentz because there was all the hate on the Browns for not drafting him, and then he was kind of looked like an MVP for a little, and now he's just terrible again. It's that's pretty cool. But I'm not rooting against him.
They've had just horrible luck with injuries offensively. But yes.
Sorry.
Go Browns.
Go
Baker
Browns.
Mayfield.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield. He's the best.
Screw that. They're gonna win against the Texans. I'm always afraid to go against my record prediction from episode 120.
But you always do.
But I always do. Yeah, I have.
We have predicted a win every
far.
pregame episode.
No, I think I predicted a loss.
I don't believe you.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I predicted a win every single time.
We've gone win every time. And you keep saying
I
you're
keep
gonna.
I keep saying if this happens again, because I think I predicted a loss to the Raiders.
No, I don't believe you.
I believe I did.
I don't believe you.
Now, I predicted a win in our breakdown, but a loss in the schedule prediction.
No, I'm not talking about the schedule. You obviously predicted losses in the schedule prediction.
Yeah. I predicted a loss against the Raiders. So I said after the Raiders that I would
start trusting my thing. And yet, very next week, you're not gonna. Yeah, weird. Who would have thought?
I can't help it, dude.
Yeah.
I can't. I just can't see us losing to the Texans.
No, I think this is it's a big game.
We beat bad defenses.
Yeah, and we're coming out of a bye, and good coaches, good teams typically win coming out of bye weeks. So
sure.
I believe we have a good coach, and I believe we have a good team. So this is a game that I think we can win. I think we went into the bye week pissed off after that Raiders game. So I think we carry that through the bye week. Oh, yeah, I don't even think we mentioned, but did we mention that Baker was on the COVID list and now he's not anymore?
No, it was in our notes, but no, we didn't even talk about it. But yeah, he was part of all the people coming back today was Baker Mayfield, who was due to precautionary reasons put on the COVID exempt list. Apparently, he came in contact with somebody that tested positive, but he did not obviously test positive, and he was activated today. So
what a disaster. I'm glad it worked out. Cool. We got Baker. It's going to be awesome. Browns are going to win. It's going to be beautiful. Tweet us, #Kennel Quick Predicts to participate in the Quick Predicts. And, in general, say what's up. How you doing? How you doing? How you feeling?
Yeah, follow us at Football Kennel on Twitter specifically, and then you can search us on YouTube at youtube.com/thekennel.
Yep, and we'll catch you after the game for a Browns victory celebration. So tune in Sunday night, actually Monday morning. Tune in Monday morning, whatever. We'll see what happens. And
for episode 134.
That's right. Go Browns.
Go Browns.